Hello and welcome to our What's New webinar series. As mentioned in previous sessions, this is designed to summarize and take you through the changes that were made to Colleague as part of our latest release. In this instance, that is release 25.10.03, and that was released at the weekend just gone. If you'd like to ask any questions, please do so via the Q&A area in this session. I'll be keeping an eye on that as we're working through these points. If you could try and keep the queries relevant to the session, i.e. based on the features that are being shown, that would be ideal. The session is also being recorded, and subscribers to the What's New series will be sent a copy of the session afterwards, which will also be uploaded to YouTube, and I'll send it out on social media and stuff as well. So, okay, so let's get started. Close that down. So again, just to highlight the obvious, the purpose of this session is to take you through the release notes of this build, top down, and basically show you the changes that have been made through the course of the release. In terms of access to those release notes, that's done from either the bell icon, post a release, you have the release notes being advised up there saying that you've been upgraded, and a link through to those release notes that's available there. Alternatively, anytime you could also click on the question mark icon, that will take you through into the help file, and you have access to the current release, which is a link to the release notes there. Also, the click for more information, that's a link to the release notes there. There's also a summary video as well, which is part of the release notes, again, just to give a sort of overview of what's happened in the release, what's there, and this is more of the granular, in-depth overview of the release in itself. So starting with the first and main update of the release, and that's the ability to parse a job spec to create a new requirement. So that's the functionality that was added to the left navigational menu. It's also added to the plus menu there. You've got option of parse requirement, and this is obviously for that purpose. It's to parse a job specification in the same way that you would parse a candidate CV. You're parsing a job specification with a view to it then creating a requirement off the back of that. In the same way, you can drag and drop a job specification, or you could click on this option. It'll open up a dialog window for you to select a job spec, but I'm going to pick on that job spec. It'll parse the requirement as you'd expect it to, and then it brings through a requirement view in a similar way to the candidate. It brings through this requirement view where it shows the requirement, or so the job spec on the left-hand side with the details that are there. On the right-hand side, it's shown some information that it's being able to find based on the content of the job spec. The job description is also there as well, based on the details of the job specification. Skills that have been found in the job spec also found as well, and are listed there, and as well the custom fields area is also there as well, if you've got any mandatory custom fields or things you want to change there. Now, if you've got a contact that's referenced in the job spec, it will try and find that contact record. If for whatever reason it finds multiple contacts or there's any confusion there, it will say that there's no contact selected, and then that gives you the option of looking up a company. It does also do the same thing with the company record. It will try and find the company based on the company that's been mentioned in the job spec, if it has been mentioned. Alternatively, if it finds multiple companies, or if there's any confusion there, this would be empty as well, and you'd have a magnifying glass to look up the company record, as you would normally do, to find obviously companies associated to requirements, and likewise with the contact. If I click on that magnifying glass, this will list the contacts associated to that specified company. So click on that, it gives us some companies, and select Willmins there, hit select, and obviously that then assigns Willmins as our company, as our contact to this record. Next move would obviously to be hit register. I will say from the outset that we've had some feedback initially on this, in terms of it's dealing with mandatory fields, it's looking up of company records, and there are some fixes at play in relation to that. So yeah, effectively we're we're working on those fixes, and there'll be an update also deployed. Obviously, it still functions as it currently does, but it does seem in certain scenarios with certain job specs, there's some feedback there that there's some tweaking to be done, as is to be expected. Really, we have the same thing with job specs. With the candidate CVs as well. Certain formats, certain styles, obviously create problems depending on the data that they're being mapped to. But the end result is obviously a requirement where the job spec is there. It's obviously been attached as a document to the requirements. Again, the skills have been pre-populated there. The retainers turned on. If I turn that off, the job specification is there as well. That's based on what's brought through from the parsing process. But then again, there's also the generate job spec option as well. So you could take the job spec or the requirement as it currently stands, and obviously create a job spec based on the AI bot that we've got there that allows for the creation of a job spec. So that's another route as well that could be taken. And then from there, the idea is the next step is to use suggested candidates to be able to look up and find candidates that might be viable to the requirement. So what we're trying to get to a place, obviously, is that you parse a job spec, you create a requirement, you create your job description, you've got your skills from the parsing process, and then you've just hit suggested candidates, and it brings you back a load of candidates there that may be viable for the role for you then to consider. So it's trying to create that workflow that allows all these things to happen with a degree of automation behind them, and further enhancement work will be done against suggested candidates. And we'll continue, as I say, refining the parsing process, refining the job description process, and just allowing those 3 stages to be as intuitive and as quick as they can be to save time. But yeah, the parse requirement obviously is there. It's enabled via a user group permission. So of the admin area in user group permissions, if I type in parse, you can see there's a view requirement parsing. I've got it set to full access to make it appear. If it was set to no access, then that option would obviously hide away. So obviously enable it or disable it as you see fit for the relevant user groups that you feel should have access to that functionality. So that's parse requirement. Just check to see if there's any questions on any of that. No. Okay, good stuff. All right, so the next one along was to do with the search, or the conversion of a candidate search, company search, or contact search to create a placement search. We've done this in several locations with the searches in terms of converting one search result into a different search result. So this was just another variation of that, but it's quite an important one, or quite a useful one, more to the point. So if you have a search result, and I'll just create an example here, and from these, let's say these candidate search results, from here you wanted to look at the placements that might be related to these candidates. There is the ability now to select either all candidates or select some of those candidates off the right click menu, or off the view selected menu. You've got an option here called create placement search, and that will do exactly that. It will create a placement search result consisting of all the placements that have been made with these candidates. And then from there, obviously, you've then got a placement search result, which you can then refine further. If you had a placement search result and you now wanted to say, perhaps only look at certain types of placement that are, maybe just only the original placements, and maybe only ones that are a contract. You could filter the placements further, basically, to obviously drill down on those specifically that you want to look at. But yeah, the idea is obviously to create candidate search results, convert them into placement search results to see the information that you want to see. And anytime you can hit go back to candidate search result, and obviously it will go back as you'd expect it to that candidate search result. You've also got the same functionality available from the company. So if you wanted to look at a company search result, again, I'll just look up. If you had maybe multiples of a certain company, I don't know. So you've got create placement search as an option there. So create contact search has always been there for quite a while now, but create placement search is now there. So again, if you wanted to see a placement search result consisting of all the placements to be made against those companies that you've selected, then obviously that would quickly bring that through for you. And then likewise with the contact search result as well. Again, if you have a list of contacts and you want to see the search result, the placements associated to those contacts, then yeah, you have the same thing. You can, in fact, I'll create a contact search result consisting of all of the contacts related to those companies, and then from there you can maybe select a batch of those, and then you've got create placement search result consisting of the contacts that I've selected there. So yeah, you can create those placement search results as you need to. So that's that functionality there. The next one along is to do with all licensed users. So this is a reporting parameter. So obviously our reports, which is again off the left-hand navigation, reports are there. What we've added into parameters of all these reports is an option of the users drop down called all licensed users. And what that basically just means is that rather than you've got all active users, you've got all inactive users. Everyone is basically every user that you've ever had, whether active, inactive, licensed or not. But what you've now got is an all licensed users one. So that's a more sort of straightforward way of kind of bypassing any confusion about who's active, inactive. It's everyone that's currently got an active license on the system. You can just tick that box, hit update, and it will do a report based on your your licensed users on the system. So it's just a helpful update that's been made there, and that's been again applied to all the reports in the system. The API is really relevant for developers, but that's had several updates over the course of this release. So if I go to our API, just to highlight the key changes there. So the first key change is to do with the social media side of things. So previously in our API, and again, the API is available for any developer that needs to have access or wants to create something third-party wise, integrating in with Colleague. There are obviously multiple calls that are available throughout the API that allow me to do various different functions. But when it comes to social media, really the only function that was supported previously was the ability to add a social media link to a record. What we'd have now is the ability to, see if an existing social media link exists using the get option, update that existing social media, and also delete social media. So the full kind of administrative options of adding, getting, searching, deleting, updating, they're all there now to be utilized for any tools that obviously will be passing data into the system and mapping social media links to records. Another update that was made was to do with our plugin, but it also is basically just a standard update to our requirement functionality and also our placement functionality, and that's this option of a split job title option. So if you've got split job title equal to true, then let's say you're doing a search for IT manager, you would also be able to find if the job title was manager of IT department or something like that. It would take basically the different characters or the different phrases mentioned in your job title and look for all variations of that really that have been referred to in the job title field. So it's a useful way obviously of finding every instance. of a job title, rather than it being just an exact match as it was before, it needs to be this job title in order for it to be found. So that split job title function was added to the requirements search to support our plugin, but also to support any third parties that are doing requirement-based searching. The other main update that was made was to do with looking over existing placement data as well. So there is now the ability to search over existing placement data, and in the same way that you have against all the entities, bring back specified columns to see data as you need to see it. Again, with that function, you also have the split job title function as well. So you can do a placement search looking based on, factoring in a job title and obviously using variations on that job title if need be. So the placement search has been updated, or placement search has been added. Requirement search was there before, but it's been updated with that job title update, and the social media component was also the main update that's been made there. And obviously that's all been added to our API. The next point along was to do with, so I'm just going to check if there's any questions. No, okay. The next point along was to do with offers. So previously offers were enabled from the global settings area, and technically they still are. You've got an enable offers function, which is the kind of master function, if you like, for the global setting of the system. But previously it was just that you either turned on offers or you turned them off. And what we've got with obviously different clients and different setups is a scenario where it's relevant for certain parts of the business to use offers or to be able, when they're creating placements, to go through the offer workflow, and for other parts of the business it's not really relevant for them to have to go through the process of creating offers. Obviously I'm thinking of the perm desk versus a contract desk. You've got those two scenarios there. The contract desk really doesn't need or even temp desk really doesn't need the offer functionality to be a factor when they're going through that workflow, whereas with a perm you would generally always have offers enabled to track that. So what you can do is turn on offers, which will turn it on kind of generically across the system as a sort of umbrella catch-all to turn on the offer. And then against user groups, you can now specify against each individual user group whether or not that particular user group has the option of using offers. And if they've got that set to no, then obviously they won't be able to see offers, whereas for those that have got this set to full access, they would be able to see offers and obviously run offer functionality as you'd expect. Everything else in terms of offer workflow is the same. It's purely just that ability to be sort of granular in terms of allowing access to the offer area and offer workflow based on that option. The next point along is to do with the ability to edit social media links. So again, this is sort of in theme with the API feedback as well, just that ability to be able to administer or edit social media links a bit better. So yeah, effectively before you had social media links here, you could run a search, you could add new social media links, or you could delete them. But what we've added is this option to edit a social media link. So if you've got a social media link in there, you can click on that option there, and then it will bring up that social media and obviously give you the ability to make whatever changes that you want to make, and then you can save back those changes obviously to the social media. It will also update the index which is used in the quick search. So that means that whenever you're changing any social media, it's also not affecting any of the searching that's possible across social medias as well. It all updates automatically. But that's ultimately the change. Social media links, you've got this edit option that's available now there as well. So editing is available from the API, and it's available from within the UI as well. And it's the same across all the entities that have got social media links against them. The next one along is the IR35 status field, which has been a long time coming, if I'm honest. So yeah, effectively against against requirements, specifically only requirements that are either contract or rolling contract. There is now an IR35 status field. This is obviously to cater for UK legislation around IR35 status. You either are inside, outside, non-applicable. There are sometimes other options as well in here. So we've added this field. It's been added in as a lookup code. And then if you wish to edit that lookup code, you've got within the lookups area, IR35. You've got within this area, you can select there, and obviously you can see the different options that have been added there. You can obviously add in any extra ones if you wanted to. But yeah, the purpose of that is obviously to adhere to that legislation and have that correctly tracked in the system. For clients that have obviously set this up as custom fields, obviously this introduces the option of being able to move away from that and obviously adopt the standard fields that's now available, which I appreciate maybe requires some data administration. So obviously get in touch if there's any need for us to assist with any of that. But effectively the IR35 status is there to be selected, and then based on your chosen selection, and just as part of standard workflow, when you're creating an offer, that IR35 status will also be available here. That will pull through into here to advise this, and obviously that then pulls through into the offer and the placement as well. Again, that's on the on the basis that it is contract. If it was perm, then that IR35 status field wouldn't be visible. It's a contract and rolling contract. So that's the IR35 status field. The other component is the potential value field. So if I go back to that placement, so the potential value field is this this value field that you're seeing here, and then there's kind of two routes that can be taken with regards to the potential value field. One route is that the value, which is on the basis of the duration of the placement, the duration of the vacancy, the potential vacancy, the number of hours mentioned. What it will do is it will perform a calculation based on the unit of measure of the rate, and it will come up with a figure that essentially is related to those assigned rates and that duration of the requirement. What you can now do is you can specify whether or not the potential value is based on the revenue, which is to say it's based on the charge rate being calculated, or is it based on the margin, which is obviously the charge rate minus the pay rate, and then you take those values and then you calculate them up from there. We've put the calculation in there as an example, but yeah, effectively there's a global setting now which defines whether or not that potential value field should be calculating on the basis of revenue or margin. So yeah, just on this is done within global settings. I do potential, I'll calculate potential. So you've got the option of calculating the potential value as revenue. So if I set that to yes, and I go back to here, 150, 24. If I change this to 165, let's say, you can see there the potential value field is set at 4,800 on the basis of the duration of this requirement and the charge rate that's specified, and obviously the margin is being advised there in terms of percentage. Now, if I was going to change this, just refresh that, because I suspect I changed that global setting, but I don't think I refreshed the requirement, so I may have got that wrong then just then. Let's just change this again to 60. Yeah, so you can see the revenue calculated on the basis of the revenue. So that's just the charge rate being calculated up as opposed to it being done on margin. If I go back to here and switch this to no, that means it's going to calculate the potential value on the basis of margin. So if I refresh this, and we change that to, you can see the 65 or even to 60, go back to 60. You can see the value is significantly lower because it's the potential value is the margin that is going to be achieved from the placement of the vacancy. So the calculations are advised here. What we're finding is obviously different clients using this value field for different purposes. So it's to give that configuration, it's to give that flexibility, and how they work and which option is more preferable to you. Obviously you can specify, and then obviously set that global setting as it needs to be set, so that obviously moving forwards the potential value field is calculated as you want it to. Moving on, the next section, or the next option to cover is the mobile UI TEL protocol field. So this is, if I go back to global settings, key in TEL. So what this is you've got two options here. One is for the mobile, and one is for the system itself. Just delete that one out. So what you've got is essentially you've got a scenario where you might have users in the office using Teams, which is the key example here. And then what they'll do is they'll be using Teams in the office. So because they're using it on a desktop, when they're on a record and they're clicking on someone's phone number, let's say, it's ringing out through Teams, because Teams will link with the TEL protocol. However, when they're on the mobile devices, and they are using the colleague mobile UI and they're clicking on to call someone, it's then doing the call on the actual mobile operator, the actual mobile device outgoing call. It's calling through there, whereas they want it to call through Teams. So what you can do now is have the mobile UI using a different TEL protocol to the main system to accommodate the scenario of when someone's on their mobile device. If you want them to call out through Teams, it can be configured to do so. So how that would work is that if you use, specifically put in the URL here, if you use Teams, you could put into here this specific URL, and then what it would do is it would when you're in the mobile device and when you're clicking on to make an outgoing call, it would then open up the Teams app on that phone and make the outgoing call through the Teams app rather than obviously through the mobile operator. And it's to ensure then that all office related correspondence is going through your Teams setup. And then when we get to obviously doing the Teams integration, which I'll come to, effectively it means that all your obviously telephone conversations are being tracked in Teams and logged against records as you'd want them to be. So effectively use that URL. It's in the release notes. But effectively, if you're using any other third-party app as part of making calls and obviously having those calls tracked for office use, you've now got a way of ensuring that when you're making calls through your mobile device, you could go through the app perhaps that supplier is using, assuming they give you a URL that you can use to make that call. So it's just a level of configurability that's available there now. The next and last point in terms of the release was related to the spec CV. Just go to a contact record. The feedback that was raised, and this is off the back of the attach spec CV functionality that was added. So obviously you've got spec CV workflow that's available within here, but realistically, what's been asked for a while was that ability to do it just when you're creating an email, just be able to go to attachments and hit attach spec CV, which is what we added in the previous sprint. So you can now click on that. But what was raised before was that you could look up a record, select that record, but the document, the default document, wouldn't then come through. I've chosen a bad record there as an example. Try this one instead. Nope. There you go. So what it's done is basically it's automatically attached the default document of the candidate record when you select it, which is generally the point that was made. Before, it would mean that you'd have to select the document from a drop down, whereas now when you select a candidate after doing attach CV, it automatically attaches their default document. So it just means that that's happening automatically now. So just a minor UI tweak, but it ensures that the correct default CV is always being automatically selected when you choose that option. So that's the attach spec CV option that's available there. As is the way, there were bug fixes in this build, as there should be, and ultimately those bug fixes were deployed. Some of them were deployed during the duration of the sprint, if I'm honest, as hot fixes, but they're listed there just as an overview of updates that are also made to improve the system based on feedback from clients. So that's the release notes covered there. Again, I'll just check for any questions. No, okay, all right. So the last point is just the work in progress, just to mention that side of things. And in terms of work that we're currently working on, there's three main components which I'll cover. One is the AI email templates functionality. So that's to say that moving forwards, following this release in December, within the email form under templates, there'll be an AI template function that's be available. You'll be able to select AI templates, and that will allow for the, again, AI-based automated generation of email correspondence that's possible. There'll be possible there. So obviously I'll demonstrate that when it's available, but yeah, off the back of that release, the email form will be updated to offer AI content generation. The other big update that we're working on is the Teams API integration. So this is the automated tracking of calls, both inbound and outbound, against records, and ultimately, transcribes AI summaries are made available through Teams through their API, and effectively we're going through and just trying to integrate as much as we can, so that if you're using Teams as your telephony solution, that correspondence is being tracked in Colleague as automatically as it can be. So there'll be settings around it. There'll be features that people will want to turn on and turn off, no doubt, and there'll be permissions that will be required as part of enabling all that functionality, no doubt, as well. But ultimately, Teams API integration will be part of the system before the end of the year, but in the release for the Sunday 7th December build, we'll be looking to deploy that and make sure that's released. The other component is social media links as well, around when you're in search results, summary views, also the browser extension, the Outlook add-in as well, adding in social media links so that you can quickly navigate to different social medias based on using the summary view and seeing a record. Those will be added all in there as well. We've got a number of other things that have been worked on in the release, but those are key updates that I think that for the majority will find useful. And then there'll be obviously other things that we'll do that are more on the either minor UI side or bug fixing side, or just based on other little things that we're trying to move forwards on with other projects. But that's the what's new for 25 10.3, and just also what's in progress for 25.11. What is currently 01, but will soon be 02 as we go into the second phase of the sprint. One last check for Q&A. No, that's clear. Okay, good stuff. Thank you very much for your time, and see you again next time. Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.